So what's going on, guys? So today's video was supposed to be just me showing you cleaning up a bunch of stuff, but I figured that'd be too boring and I need to do a power steering loop, and I'm going to show you how to do it hopefully the correct way, which is not entirely looping it, but you're also removing the plungers and the pins and the valves that aren't necessary inside the rack. So I'm going to just make that how-to video because I know for a fact there's no other power steering looping videos, especially correct ones, for the DA. So let's get down there and I will try my best to show you guys this is how it's done, but keep in mind this is my first time, so I'm also learning as I go. So basically what I'm doing is getting rid of all this hard line and this big old hose right here. So I'll just be cutting all that stuff back here just to have it out of the way, but this shield down here that's covering the valves and stuff, you're gonna have to get down there and take that off, so I'll do that. Now that your cover is off, this right here is what you're gonna be looking at. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're going to want to take off this hard line that's right here. Use a flare nut wrench so you don't damage it, and then there's this 10mm bolt right above it. You want to take that off, and there's a 10mm on the other side, and then this whole centerpiece right here is just going to come right off, and then that's what you want to be working with. So I'll take that off and I'll show you guys what to do. Alright, so now that you've got the actual assembly out of the car, just finished taking this shield off, just these 3 bolts. I already had mine loose, so that's what you're going to be looking at. So just make sure you don't lose this gasket right here. Alright, so there's 2 ways you can do this. The first way would be just removing all of these pieces, and basically you can just pull them right out. And the only downside to that is I've read that if you have everything out, you can just basically throw the cover back on, call it a day, put it back in, and loop the lines. But I've read that people are having issues with there being a lot of steering slop, like it feels like there's slop in the rack. So I'm going to try it the other way, which is only putting in a couple of the valves. So I'm going to, like I said, it's my first time, so I'm going to be reading while trying to do this and figure out which ones, that way you guys can try this way as well. And if it works for you, awesome. So I'll see if it works for me. But basically just start by taking everything out, and then we'll try and figure out which ones to put back in. Alright, so you're going to want to take these little slugs out, just like that. And the springs will just fall out right behind it. Want to keep track of those because I'm not sure which ones you got to put back in, and they are different sizes compared to these ones. So you can see they're different size. Alright, so in these 2 holes right here, there's going to be some metal slugs. So just kind of use a screwdriver and pry them right up out. Just like that. So got them both out, and that's what they look like. Alright, so now that you got everything taken out of it, you're going to want to take these 2 pieces and split them in half. So I suggest having a towel because it's going to be messy. It's going to take some fluid out. Mine was a little bit rusty, so it took a little bit of finessing, but eventually you'll get it, and you can separate the 2 valves like this. This is a valve port or whatever, and this is the actual housing. So yeah, now that those are apart, now this is the part where you actually start reassembling it. Alright, so this is what you're going to be looking at with everything disassembled. You should have 2 of these like holding rods, you should have 2 skinny long springs, 2 fat springs, 4 dowels, 2 of these rods, and the main connecting rod. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put this back in with this cutout right here. See how it's got the groove on the top? You're going to want to insert this into the valve housing right here. So that way it's facing that way, and then you want to stick one of these rods through right here and push it through and get it put in there. Just like that. Alright, so you see how you can see that groove that was in that rod? You want to be able to see that groove through that hole right there on this open hole or whatever, and that is what returns the rack or the pinion to the neutral position, so you want that exposed. Be sure to have that part exposed. Alright, so for the next step, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take two of these little dowels or whatever, and you're going to want to insert them into these two holes. So one right here, and then on the bottom one, just like that. And then what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to spin it around, and you're going to want to take these two return springs, which are, I believe, these wider ones, and stick them in right on the other side. Just like that. Alright, then after you got the springs in, you're going to want to take the last two dowels, and you're going to want to slide those in. Make sure the other ones don't fall out the opposite side. So that way you have dowel, spring, dowel, and then on the bottom the same thing. And then you're going to want to reattach it to the valve housing and make sure none of the parts fall out. So keep a careful eye on that. Alright, so just like that. And then make sure they're pushed in. And now that part's actually reassembled. Since the two housings are put back together, now all you have to do is slide this last pin in, which you got to be able to just push down a little bit on the plungers. So I'll get that back in and I'll show you because it's kind of a fuss. Alright, so got it started. And just push it the rest of the way through. Push down and slide the rest of the way in, and that's how you want it to look when it's actually all finished up. So now that that's all put back together, you can just put your cover back on. Make sure you still have your gasket on there, make sure it's still intact. And that's pretty much it. That's all you got to do for this part. These are the parts that you should have left over. You should have these two long springs, and you should have these two rods right here. So you don't need those anymore, so don't be afraid if you have those. But like I said, keep these little jets. You never know. Like I said, the guy said he put his back in, so I'm going to be safe. I'm going to put them back in too. And then as for looping the line, you can just use some regular hose like this and some clamps. And like I said, I have the valve missing right here, but you're going to want to loop these two valves. So this like the upper hose and this housing hose, and then this outside hose and this middle hose are going to be looped together as well. So I'm going to do that, and I'll show you guys what that looks like when it's all done before I put it back in the car. Alright, so by now you should have everything put together and you should be starting to loop it like I said, but I'm doing something a little bit different. If you want to, you can go ahead and just straight loop the lines. You can do either big hose to big hose, or little hose to little hose, or big to little, big to little. I'm going to do big to little, just because that's how I've seen other people doing it. But I'm also going to try something new. I'm going to be using a T, like a T fitting, and I'm going to loop the two of the hoses together. Just doesn't matter which one really. And then I'm also going to add a breather filter on here, because basically what happens is if you have the entire closed system all looped up, you're going to be leaking no matter what. And if you run like a reservoir setup, then I had a friend of mine that did that, and his was still leaking. So because with a cap on, at least, because there's too much pressure in there. And so I'm going to try using a breather and see if it doesn't leak that much, and see if it just helps it breathe better. So this is totally optional, but I'm just going to try it. Alright, so this is basically the final outcome, just like this. So I've got the little line, or the big line, I'm sorry, and the little line looped back here. I've got this little line and the big line looped up with a T. Yes, it's a plastic T, and I know I should have used brass or something else, but this is just an experiment. So if this actually ends up being effective, but it ends up eating the plastic T, I'll just swap it out, not a big deal. But yep, it's basically what it looks like. So now it's good to go back in the car. Installation is reversal of removal, and I guess I'll go mount this up quick and show you guys what it looks like. Alright, so here it is installed on the car. I had to change the design a little bit, so basically it's all looped how it was, but I put the T up there and then I ran the filter up along the firewall a bit. So this is what I mean. I basically have the T down there, and instead of having the filter right off of that because it'll overflow super quick like that, I just extended the hose up, brought it all the way up the side of the shock tower, and now I have it sitting right here. I made this little mount out of sheet metal, but you also need to have a way to fill the rack because it will leak eventually, and it's inevitable without a power steering pump. So I have this bottom hose right here. If I undo this clamp, I can just fill it straight through there, but gravity is going to help keep the fluid down instead of getting overpressurized and coming straight up right away. So that's that. That's all done. Then you can put your bottom cover on and call it a day. Alright, that's pretty much it, and I am absolutely filthy from doing this, so I really hope you guys found this useful. It took me forever to understand the forums, how it was being explained and what they were doing. So if you have trouble reading the forums like Honda Tech that have write-ups on this, then I hope this video was useful to you. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. That'll help me out. Comment down below what you guys want to see next, and stay tuned, because this coming weekend I'm going to finish cleaning up the engine bay on that thing, and we're getting even closer to doing the B20V, getting it finished up. Just give it about a month and a half. It's just all in the money right now, so just waiting on the funds. So love you guys. I'll see you for the next one. Peace.